Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Topics in Endurance Sports. I'm your host Tim. Today is Thursday, May 11th, 2017. You can find more about me at my website at runsmith.net. That's runsmith.net. You'll find my email, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Okay, that's enough of that. Like I said, you can find out more about me at my website at runsmith.net. I'll give you a few the things you can find there. My Facebook is Runsmith Enterprises. That's a Facebook group. Runsmith Enterprises. Please join the group. Twitter, I'm at Runsmith. Instagram, it's Tim C. Smith 1961. And you can also find more about my coaching services there. So please come check all that out. I do run coaching if you are interested in that. And you'll find out why I was playing YMCA when we get down further into the episode. This episode is brought to you by Spoken Bicycles of Middletown, Ohio. Spoken Bicycles is a new bicycle shop in downtown Middletown that also features a craft beer tap room. They offer new road, hybrid, and city bikes. They service all bikes and have gear and accessories you can't find anywhere else in the Midwest. They also have group rides and runs that leave from the shop. Visit their website at www.spokenbicycles.com for more information about their store. spokenbicycles.com. And the first group run was just a couple of days ago. I was there. And it was a great success. We had runners, we had walkers, and afterwards we had a very delicious beer. So please come join us. The next one will be Tuesday, May 16th at 6. They will always be on Tuesdays at 6. And bike rides are Thursdays at 6. So please come to those as well. One other thing before we really get started. I've mentioned Sean Bearden before. He's got a couple of podcasts I really enjoy. And he's a pretty interesting he's a very intelligent guy. And I may have brought this up too. He's going to try to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 different continents. So it's the 777 marathon challenge, I guess you would say. And he is doing it in part to raise money to fight depression, to raise awareness. So please go to www.scienceofultra.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, but it's scienceofultra, all one word, .com, and you can donate. And in May, if you donate, he will match it. So I've already donated, so you should go donate too. Like I said, he's a great guy. So go donate in May, please, even if it's $5, $10, anything, and that would be great. So we have 2 main topics for today. One main topic. One smaller topic is my 50-mile weekend I did recently, and then a race I did called the Grayson Highlands 50K. Before we get to that, a little bit from previous episodes. From 2 episodes ago, this was episode 5, where I reviewed 2 races, the Holland in the Holler 50K and the Yamacraw 50K. When I was interviewing someone at Yamacraw, a lady named Donna, she mentioned her Ultimate Direction hydration vest. And I had one as well. It was my first time using it in a race, and her first time using it in a race, interestingly. And she mentioned the water bottles. So the water bottles that come with the hydration vest, you put them, they go up front, up high on your chest is where they are, and they're soft water bottles. So the sides are soft and flexible, very flexible plastic, and they're very nice in the sense that they're very cushiony against your skin. I mean, against your shirt. It just doesn't, you don't have a hard object against your chest. So that part is nice. But she did bring something up that I totally agreed with, which is that as you drink and as the volume of it shrinks, the bottle starts to fall down into the pouch. And then you're having to dig it out of the pouch and it's kind of at an awkward angle for your hands. It's up near your neck, and you're trying to dig the bottle out of the pouch, and it doesn't. The pouch is just the size of the bottle, so you're pulling hard to get it out, and it's kind of slightly annoying. You can get around it by blowing air back into the bottle each time you take a drink, and that'll keep the bottle puffed up all the time. But that too gets a little bit annoying after a while. I mean, you do it every single time you drink. First of all, you have to kind of suck the air out first that you've blown in there, and then you drink, and then you have to blow air back in. And it's not perfect. And you still have to dig the bottle in and out of the pouch all the time. There are some people who can drink from it while it stays in the pouch. Maybe you have just better neck than I do. I can't quite reach it that easily. Sometimes I can. It kind of depends. But usually I have to pull it out. So I'm wondering if other people have had this issue and how they have solved it. I know some people said they just go with hard water bottles. And they said, oh, it came with the vest. Well, mine didn't come with hard water bottles. It came with the soft ones. And I do like the softness. It does feel very nice. So I would like to stay with the soft ones, but not have to dig them out. And it seems to me the solution would be kind of a straw at the top of the bottle. If there was a straw I could put on, or a different lid that had a longer nipple, then it would be easier to get to. I could just leave it in there and drink, and I'd never have to pull it out of the pocket, it would seem. So I don't know if that's a solution or not. But anyway, thought I'd bring that up in case someone else knows how to handle that situation. Another thing, in interviewing some people at the Holland in the Holler race, a lot of these people mentioned other races. And so I kind of wanted to follow up on that. So some of them mentioned a race called the Frozen Sasquatch in Kanawha State Forest. Now, what was funny about that is they kept saying Kanawha, Kanawha, Kanawha. And I was not quite sure what they were saying because I had done that race in 2016. And I didn't recall it being in Kanawha State Forest. Well, it's spelled Kanawha, which if you look at that, looks like Kanawha. At least to me, I would say Kanawha. But I was later told everyone there pronounces it Kanawha. So that is why I was a little confused. So this is just outside of Charleston. It's in January. And I did it in 2016. And it was a good race. I enjoyed it. Pretty hilly and just a good race. I'll post some pictures that I took from the race. And that's a 50K and a 25K near Charleston, West Virginia. So check that race out. Quite a few people at the Holland and the Holler told me they were going to run UROC. So UROC, UROC, is a race in the Blue Ridge Mountains of West Virginia, and it stands for Ultra Race of Champions. A bit of a lofty name. It's not necessarily a championship or anything. Anyone can do it. However, they do give prize money. So in that sense, it is kind of a championship race. For example, the first place people get $5,000. The second place, $2,000, and goes down the line. I think they pay 5 deep. So that is pretty cool because that many races offer prize money. There's a 100K, a 50K, and a 25K. I assume the 100K people are getting the prize money. And that's this weekend. It's in 2 days from when I'm recording this. That race will be happening. So that will be one to watch. There are some good elite runners, I believe, doing it. I forgot to check to see who, but I'm sure there'll be some good runners doing it. And actually, I was all signed up to do it. It was going to be my big race of the spring to do, and I was all set for it, and then I got into Western States. So I was able to defer my entry. I still could be doing it, but it's expensive. It is not a cheap race, and in part because you're paying for those payouts. But it's not cheap. I think I paid like $185, and I signed up right away. That was the lowest price. So $185 for a 100K it's not cheap. Compared to road marathons, yeah, it's really cheap. But compared to ultras, it's a goodly amount of money. And I didn't want to pay that, and then with all the expenses I have coming up for my race in California. So I did defer it until next year. So I will be there next year, which isn't bad because this race actually moves around. It was in California, and this is the first year they're doing it in West Virginia. So now they can get the kinks out this year, if there are any, And next year it should be a lot. Well, hopefully any issues they have this year will be worked out by next year. It doesn't move every single year. Usually they keep it in one place for a little while. So hopefully they'll keep it 2 years. I don't know what I'll do if they move it far away. But anyway, that's already going to be on my schedule for next year. So you might want to follow that race. Another runner mentioned Holly. She was the one who won the 25K at Holland in the Holly. Holland in the Holly? How about Holland? Holly won Holland in the Holler. There we go. She mentioned a race she's doing this summer called the Highlands Sky. It's a 40-mile race on June 17th in Davis, West Virginia. It's in the, I can't even pronounce this, the Monongahela, I'm sure I say that wrong, National Forest in Canaan Valley State Park. The course traverses roaring plains and Dolly Sod's wilderness. I just like these names. That's the name of something, Roaring Plains and Dolly Sod's wilderness through some of the most rugged and beautiful terrain in West Virginia. It's an area of high elevation, wind-swept plains ranging from 2,500 to 4,700 feet of elevation. There's woodland paths, rock and boulder, upland bogs, northern hardwoods, red spruce, and so on. It's the highest large valley east of the Mississippi. Kind of a funny way to put it. Anyway, it looks like an interesting race, one I might have to put on in the future. I've heard of this race. I think it's been going a long time, 20 years or something this race has been going on, or maybe at least 15. And so Holly will be running that in West Virginia. And I kind of bring some of these up because you'll notice I'm saying West Virginia a lot. The race I am covering this today is in Virginia. I'm just about to mention a race in Pennsylvania. So I've run in races in all three of these states now. And people are missing out if you are not coming out here to run. I know the West is unbelievable, but if you are, say you're in the Midwest and you're thinking, I want to go do some cool destination races, and if you're only thinking of going to the West, I think you're missing out. These places are just beautiful. Sure, you don't have 12,000 feet of altitude and maybe views for hundreds of miles and gigantic snow-capped mountains. That is true, but they make up for it in other ways. Closer views that are just beautiful. The forests are beautiful. The scenery near you is beautiful, and you do get some distance views that are absolutely gorgeous. So people need to come run in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, Kentucky. I've run in all these states. I still need to run in Tennessee. I have to get down there very soon. North Carolina, I've only done a triathlon in, so I need to do some trail races there. I need to get down to Georgia and some other nearby places. So come out east and come run. What you need to expect, though, is rocks. Lots of rocks. These trails are not easy. Roots as well. Plenty of up and down. Maybe not a 5,000-foot climb at once, but plenty of up and down and difficult terrain. But very pretty scenery, so it's worth it. Okay, let's get on to today's topics. The first one, kind of a short topic, is that about 3 weeks ago, I was supposed to do a race in Pennsylvania. This would have been my second one there, called the Highlands 50K. It's extremely popular race, like 1,000 people run it. They have a large entry cap. And I wasn't able to go. I had some kind of emergency in my family. It had nothing to do with me personally, but it was in my family, and it just popped up the day before the race. And although it was kind of a short-term emergency, I was not able to travel to the race. So obviously that was extremely unfortunate. I was very much looking forward to it. And actually the race is already sold out for next year, so I guess I'm not going next year as well. But someday I will get to it. So that was about 3 weeks ago, and I wasn't able to go. And this was a build-up race for my 100-miler in California in June. So I didn't want to waste the weekend. I was going to be here, but I didn't have to be in the house the whole time. So I decided what I'm going to try to do is just run as much as I can that weekend. So over 3 days to replace the Highlands 50K, which I knew would be a grueling, it's very hilly, steep ups and downs. I wouldn't really be able to repeat that on my own. I don't really have that. I should be able to, but I'm too lazy, I guess, to repeat that quite on my own. That level of effort. So I knew I could just kind of run a lot at an easier pace. And that's what I did. So on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I resolved to try to run 50 miles in those 3 days. And I managed to do it. So I did 17 on Friday, 18 on Saturday, 15 on Sunday. Those are rough numbers. And it came up to 51.1 miles. The total elevation I added it all up, came to about 4,000 feet up and 4,000 feet down. So if you compare this to Western states, the 100-miler I'm going to do, it's not even half of the up and down. So for that, I'll be having to go up and down about roughly 10,000 feet per 50 miles. Per 50 miles. So it's going to be about 20,000 feet of up and down total. I did about 4,000 feet in 50 miles, so not even quite half the elevation difficulty. Also, I took 60 hours to do this because I did it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The total time between when I started the first run on Friday and finished the last one on Sunday was about 60 hours. And of course, in the 100-miler I'm going to do, I'm only going to have 30 hours. So basically, I did about half the distance, under half the elevation, in about double the time, all right, compared to the 100-miler I'm going to be doing. Having said that, it was a good weekend. I mean, it was enjoyable. I got a lot of running in, and I split up every single day. So on Friday, I did 2 runs, Saturday 2 runs, Sunday 2 runs. And so the longest run, I think, was only about 12 miles. So there were shorter runs, but I was out there all weekend. I mean, I ran Friday morning, Friday evening, or Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon. So my body got used to just constantly being out running, but obviously not all in one stretch. So I think it was still a very useful weekend. And I just throw this out here as maybe a way to think about, I'm not guaranteeing this was a great idea that is going to, do something fantastic for me, but it might be something you might want to try if you're gearing up for even a 50-mile race, 50 mile or 100K or 100 mile. I enjoyed that weekend. I had the luxury of being able to not work on Friday, so that helped make it easier. But you maybe could still do it if you did Friday before work and Friday after work, did some of it, and then just did a lot on Saturday and Sunday. So a 50-mile 3-day weekend. I'm really happy I did it. And I was wiped out. It was not easy. On Monday afterwards, I was really, really, really tired. So it was a lot of running. I've never done anything like that in a weekend. And also for the month of April, I got in 245 miles. I'm kind of bragging. That's the most. I'm 95% sure that is the most I've ever done in 1 month. Yeah. Even if I had months with a gigantic race, because if I had a gigantic race, I didn't, I've done a couple 100-mile races, and even in those months, I'm not sure I got it 245 total, maybe, but in the month of April, I only did one 50K, so that was 31 miles. All the other miles are just training. So 245, that's 60 miles per week. In the scheme of things, for people training for 100-mile races, that is not high. It is still, it's probably average. Okay, there are people doing 120, 140, 150 miles per week. There are people doing 40. Okay, so it's not something to brag about as far as, wow, I did something that people can't do. It's kind of average, but I'm a generally low mileage runner. I just don't do tons of miles. So for me, it was a good month. It was a really good weekend, even though I missed the race. And so I'm pretty happy about that. I won't be running that many miles probably in May. And then in June, I'll be tapering most of the month of June for the race itself, which is at the end of June. So anyway, there's a little on my training. I had said in episode 1, I talked a little bit about how my training is going and such. So there's a little bit of that. Okay, now to the real main topic, the Grayson Highlands 50K. So I just did this a few days ago. Today's Thursday. I did it on Saturday, so about 5 days ago. So the Grayson Highlands 50K is near a town called Mouth of Wilson, Virginia, which is a funny name, right? Mouth of Wilson, Virginia, very southern Virginia. And they had a 50K on Saturday, and they also had a half marathon on Sunday. I wasn't there for that, so I'm not going to comment anything on that. I'm sure it's just a shortened version of the course. But I did the 50K. So here's a little bit from the website about the Grayson Highlands 50K. Grayson Highlands is Virginia's third largest state park with just over 4,500 acres of land. This beautiful park is located in Grayson County, Southern Virginia. This is the highest state park in Virginia. They are best known, this is their wording, which is not really good. They are best known for our beautiful vistas and the wild ponies that live in the Highlands. More about that later. Expect to see spectacular views from all of the trails and overlooks. More about that later. On a clear day, you can see for 70 miles. The park offers 15 miles of trails, which we will run almost all of. It seems like there's more than 15. This is one of the few places left in the South where there are still fir trees. Runners of both races will be running into this. You will see waterfalls. Actually, I don't quite recall waterfalls, at least not any big ones. As far as you can see views, streams, oh yeah, plenty of streams. Rhododendron tunnels, 100+ year old built stone walls. I do recall some stone walls. Views of 2 states and more single track than you can imagine. This is the first and only trail race within Grayson Highlands State Park. You will have a view of Mount Rogers, the highest point in Virginia. Nope, I don't think we saw Mount Rogers. Maybe, but I don't know. Again, more about that later. This race runs over Little Pinnacle or Haw Orchard Mountain at 5,089 feet, making it the highest race in Virginia. The trails are beautiful, but anything but smooth or easy. Got that right. There is some serious elevation change as well as some very rocky technical sections. Got that right. The course for both races will have a little bit of everything from short, steep climbs to smooth rolling hills to flat. Not much flat, a little bit. This has to be the prettiest run in Virginia. All right, so that's what they say about it. Some more of their data. The 50K has 4,000 feet of up and 4,000 feet of down. That's their guesstimate. The high point is about 5,200 feet. Average elevation about 4,400 feet. And the distance they write as 28 to 30 miles, roughly. So 50K is 31, so it's a little bit less. So just my own personal data, I got 29.9 miles, but, and I'll get to this, I went off course and added about 1.6 miles. So I should have gotten about 28.3 is what I'm guessing everybody else ran. And I got 5,150 feet of gain and loss. So again, they got 4,000. And this seems to be a trend. I always get a lot more than what the race directors say. That happened at Yamacraw as well. So I don't understand what that's all about. But I got over 5,000 feet of gain and 5,000 feet of loss. And my max elevation was about 5,400 feet is how high my watch said we got to. So the race course itself, it's kind of a loop, but there's an out and back section as well. It's kind of complicated to say exactly what it is. You do finish where you begin, but you don't just run a simple loop. There's just some parts you repeat to some extent. So you start with a 2.5 mile downhill, and a lot of, like 1.8 miles is on a road. So you actually run on a road, just a park road for about 1.8 miles, I think, downhill. And then you go another 0.7 miles downhill. So you go about 2.5 miles downhill. Then you go up for 3.6 miles. You go up about 1,100 feet. And I think this is where you get into the highest point. In fact, I know you are. So the weather, you'll hear me talking about the weather to the people I interview, but the weather was bizarre. Okay, so instead of being a nice day, this strange cold front came through. And for people in the Midwest, you were experiencing all of this. First, it hit Iowa, where I'm from, because I pay attention to the weather there. And they got this cold rain a couple of weeks ago. Then it came to me in Ohio, because that's the way weather always does. That's why I look at Iowa, because 2 days later it's going to be in Ohio usually. So then it came to Ohio, and we got freezing rain. And I basically drove with it right to Virginia. And we had freezing rain, and believe it or not, snow. So when we started the race running that downhill, it was sleeting right in our eyes, little hard sleet right into our eyes. Then we went up the hill, which I pretty much hiked most of it, for 1,100 feet and 3.6 miles. And up there it was snowing lightly, but there was snow on the ground. There was ice on the ground. So that's how cold it was. And it was a very strong wind and freezing. My face was absolutely frozen. It was very, very foggy. Couldn't see a thing up there, and that's where I'm wondering if we were supposed to get some of these beautiful views, and maybe that's where we should have seen Mount Rogers. We didn't see anything, just fog. And I'll put some pictures up from the race, so hopefully you get some ideas of all this. After that, after we got to the top of that, kind of a long downhill, another uphill, and then a steep long downhill that went about 1,300 feet down in 3.3 miles. Quite steep, technical, probably for me personally, the most difficult part of the course. I don't do downhills as well as I do uphills. After that, another uphill, then back down, and then an uphill pretty much to the finish, which is what one of the guys I interviewed commented was so difficult for him. And it was very slow, but it was about, according to my watch, about 1,300 feet over 3 miles we went uphill. So that was pretty much to the finish. After we got to the top of that, it was only about another mile to the finish. So that was a race. Basically, you got some long uphills, some long downhills, and a couple of them are quite steep. Tons of rocks, tons and tons of rocks, lots of roots, and it had rained for days before this, and it was extremely, extremely wet. A lot of the course were just running down what seems to be a creek, and we're in the middle of the creek. So, and there was a lot of creek crossings as well. So we got our feet completely submerged many, 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 many times in this race. Pretty much wet most of the way, except kind of at the end when we start going up that last long hill. Then there was nothing really wet after that, but a decent amount. There wasn't a whole lot of mud because it's so rocky, I guess. I've run in a lot muddier places, but tons of rocks. And these are like baseball, football size rocks, so it's very difficult to run on for me. I'm just not good at that stuff. So not easy running at all. Some really beautiful views though, and in some cases we were able to see a distance, and even the more up close views are fantastic. And we did see the ponies that I mentioned. So they have these ponies, and I'll talk more about those in a bit. And there's also a longhorn steer. So I got to see these things very, very, very up close. And I got pictures of these as well. There's a picture of me basically, I'm petting a pony. I'm standing right next to one of the ponies. So very cool to see the ponies. The first aid station is not until mile 11. So you have to be prepared for that. After that, about every 4 miles. I guess they just no way to find a place for the aid station until mile 11. So be able to go 11 miles on technical, difficult terrain. That's a few hours. So be able to do that. The aid stations have your regular stuff. They had peanut butter and jelly, my favorite. They had Gatorade, M&Ms, and stuff like that. They did not have any gels, so bring all your own gels if you want that. And no cups, so make sure you have a water bottle so you can get filled up. We all got a nice cotton t-shirt, which I'm wearing right now, my cotton t-shirt. And finisher's medal, a wooden finisher's medal, which is very nice. We got that as well. And the race director was there to greet everyone. The race director is Sean Runbum Blanton. He's pretty famous at this point. He puts on a lot of races around here. He puts on the Georgia Death Race, which I mentioned a few times in previous episodes. And he's quite a character, let's put it that way. Very much a character in generally the best sense. I think he might rub some people the wrong way, maybe. But I think in generally the best sense, he's quite a character. He was there to greet me when I finished. So let's get into some interviews. I interview 2 girls, Jolie and Sandy. I think it's Jolie. It could be Julie. And Sandy, and also Barney I interviewed. I did ponder interviewing Sean, the race director. I was kind of hanging out talking to him for a while after the race. But what was I going to ask him? I don't know. I mean, what? I had no idea what to ask him. So, hey, how's the race going? Everything going okay? I didn't know what to say, so I didn't interview him, but maybe I should have. I should have been prepared, I guess, with something. Plus, he's got a podcast. He is one of the co-hosts of the East Coast Trail and Ultra podcast. So check that out. It's a good podcast, and he's one of the hosts of that. Okay, let's go ahead and get to the interviews right now. Okay, I'm with a couple of finishers of today's race. What is your name and where are you from?
Name's Julie. I'm from Parkersburg, West Virginia.
How far is that from here?
4 hours.
4 hours. What about you?
My name is Sandy, and I'm from Morgantown, West Virginia.
And how far is that from
And
here?
it's about 5.5 hours.
Oh, quite a ride.
Yeah.
Okay, so have either of you done this race before?
Yes.
You both did it?
Yes.
Okay, how were the conditions today compared to the last
A
time?
lot harder.
Yeah, we did it 2 years ago, and it was sunny and nice. So, totally different race today.
Totally different race today.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
so I was kind of guessing. Okay, just physically, how did the race go for you?
Good.
Really?
Good. Yeah, I was really happy with how I finished.
How about
She
you?
was much happier this year than
Yes.
she was 2 years
I didn't
ago.
finish so well last time, so I had something to kind of make up for.
And
Oh, that's good.
this one was about the same. The conditions were tougher, but I had a couple races and a marathon and a 50-miler that I did before, so I'm a little beat up coming into this race.
I see. Did either of you wipe out or fall or hurt anything today? Because there was a lot of ways
yeah.
you could have.
Yeah, I wiped out probably about 3 miles in.
Didn't hurt
So,
anything, though?
no, thankfully.
No, I fell. A twig grabbed my foot and pulled me down, but luckily I landed kind of on a soft, mossy bank, so
So
didn't
ankle-
twist anything.
Ankles are okay.
Yep,
That
ankles
was
are-
my worry, was my ankles
Yeah.
are just going to crack or going to break a kneecap or something.
Yeah, the knees, the downhills were steep, and and I saw a lot of runners. They really, I'm having issues with my knees, and their knees were hurting.
Yeah.
So it was tough on the knees. This course was tough on the knees.
And the
Yeah.
quads, are your quads kind of feeling a little...
Oh, yeah. They're,
Jello.
they're talking to me. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Did you guys get to see the ponies up close?
we did.
Right on the
way
trail?
up
We
close.
Not as many as 2 years ago. They were everywhere 2 years ago.
really?
Yes, everywhere. And then of course I guess it was just cold and snowy, so they kind of stayed away. But they were right on the road, and
And we saw some of the steer, too, right?
yes,
Pretty
yeah, we
close?
did. Yeah, yep.
That's pretty. And when you got to that mile 21 aid station, was there still a really beautiful view?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it came and went or what.
Yeah.
but-
No, it was still
It was
sunny
gorgeous.
and kind of sort of sunny, and yeah, it was really
Absolutely
really pretty.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Right.
could
So
see
overall-
for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, yeah.
As the song goes.
So overall, even though it was really nasty conditions, you guys did pretty well. Pretty happy?
We're actually really happy because if it wasn't for this girl right here, I don't think the other three of us, there's four of us together, I think we would not have started. We were like, yeah, we have a camper back there. I think we'll just go back. And but she wanted to do it, so we're like, well, okay, if she's doing it, we'll do it. And we were hating her for the first 8 miles, but now she's okay.
I see.
Lucky me.
Besides this race, have you done any of the other run bum races?
I have not.
No.
No, it's the first
only
one.
one.
This is my first one too. So.
Yeah.
All right. I'd like to ask about shoes. So what shoes did you wear?
These are Brooks.
Brooks what?
They are Adrenalines.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's more. Is it the trail version at least, or is that
Yes.
the road shoe?
No, they're trail.
Yeah, I have that same shoe. I think. What about you? What'd you wear?
I have Hoka Challengers.
Okay, is that the new ATR 3 or?
No, it's a Challenger, so it's the
Challenge-
trail version, but that's the name of it, Challenger.
Okay.
By Hoka.
I just got the ATR 3. It just came out, so
Yeah.
and I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Okay, last questions. What is next, or what's coming up for you?
Mohican Marathon in June.
I've done the Mohican. I live in Ohio, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's
I did it last year and loved it.
Yeah, it's a
That's
fun
nice
race. What about you?
I have a half marathon actually at the beach. It's going to be totally different. Sunset Beach in North Carolina in
Nice.
2 weeks. So,
Anything else?
then I have another half marathon in Morgantown, Deckers Creek, and then that's all I have for the year. So I'm thinking about maybe doing the Morgantown Marathon in the fall.
All right.
We'll see. And then Boston because I qualified for Boston a month ago.
Very good.
Yeah.
That would be great. Well, you got a whole year for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ways to go.
April 20th.
Maybe you can break the 2-hour marathon.
No, that won't happen.
Not too likely.
No.
Because you won't have the shoes. If you had
Yeah, I know.
if you,
Yeah.
if you had the shoes, you could do it.
Dang that! If they just had the right shoes.
I know,
Yeah. A little jet pack, you know.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you too for talking to me.
Yeah. Thank you. Congrats on finishing.
Thank you. Okay, I'm here with Barney Riesbeck of
Yes.
Middletown, Ohio.
Very good, Tim.
That's right. So you just finished the race. So, you haven't done this race before, have you?
No, never
you-
been to this area of the world.
Really? Have you done any? You've done no run bum races?
No run bum races. Never run in Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what made you come do this one?
Somebody said, Barney, you have to do Grayson Highlands
Because it was going to be a beautiful day,
because
sunny.
of the ponies.
Yeah, the ponies. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. So actually, did you run right by them? Because I was able to go right by them. They were on the trail.
I got so many pictures on my camera.
Nice.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, there were some that literally you could have pet them.
Yeah.
They were that close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought maybe we weren't going to see them because it took
I know.
quite a while. I think it was
Yeah.
after 20 miles before
Yeah.
finally they popped up, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh, we must have missed them in all the fog or something. That's what I was thinking.
No, we had one probably about 7 miles in
Oh.
that ran from the hill down the hill across the trail right in front of us.
Oh, really?
So I didn't have my camera ready,
Right.
but it flew, and it was a big one.
And then you probably figured that was it,
Yeah, and we thought, yeah, okay, we missed them.
right? Yeah, so it was cool to finally see them.
Oh yeah,
So physically, how did the race go? Are you pretty happy with how it went?
oh yeah. The first part of the race, I thought it was really easy. So I knew that it was higher elevation. I'm not used to that. So the first part of the race, I thought, wow, this is going to be easy. I'm not even going to be sore. Then after the aid station at 16 and a half miles, you go down the hill,
Right.
and you have the out and back, that hill coming back, and then the next one, oh my gosh. That's when I realized we're at elevation.
Are you talking about going downhill or uphill?
No, up,
Yeah.
coming back up. I had a 27-minute mile.
Are you
Yeah.
okay with the downhills, running downhill? Because that's what really gets me worse than going up.
Oh, really?
The downhills, yeah.
No,
So the technical
okay.
stuff doesn't
No.
wipe you out too bad?
no. And early in the race, there was some downhill that was rocky,
Right.
and the wind was at our back, and
Yeah.
I felt like I was going too fast.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's kind of like pushing me down and I'm fighting back against the wind.
Yep.
All right.
But I try not to do that because if I fight it, then my quads are sore.
Yeah,
The next day.
Exactly. When you got to that, I think it was aid station, where we turned around, like mile 21. When you were there, was it a really beautiful view at that
Oh
point?
yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that view stayed
yeah.
the whole time or if it got
It
cloudy.
was clear when I was there.
Yeah, me too.
Now I got pictures. I don't know if it's my phone,
Right.
so I don't know if it's going to do justice.
Right. It probably won't. It never does.
But I think the weather, with the snow and the sleet and all that, just added to the adventure part of the race.
You know, you make a good point. I was kind of mad about it because when we were going up at first, it was so foggy. I thought we're missing all the views. But
Yeah.
by the end of the race, I feel like we still saw a lot of cool views. And you're right, it added all of this texture to
Yep.
a lot of the course
Yeah,
as well.
those were clouds.
Right.
That wasn't fog. That
Right,
was for
exactly.
clouds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ran in North Carolina last year, and similar. You know, we got up to the peak, and there's no view.
Right.
So we got done, and RD says, "Well, what'd you think?" And I said, "Well, it was awesome, but you know, the fog I couldn't see." And he said, "Bernie, we're at elevation. Those are clouds. That's not fog."
What race was that?
Assault on Black Rock.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, it's at Silva, North Carolina.
How far was that? I mean, how long?
7
was-
miler,
Oh.
3.5 up, 3.5 back.
Oh, nice.
But the last part, one of the guys that went with us, 40-minute mile on the way up. 40-minute mile.
That's
That's how steep it was.
I imagine, yeah. Let's see, what shoes did you run in? I see Hokas. Which Hokas are those?
I bought a pair of Hokas, and this is the second time I've worn them. I'm not sure what they are, but I wore them last fall at the Broken Toe 50K.
Okay.
Okay, and this is the second time I've worn them,
They're pretty cushiony
and
looking.
very cushiony.
Yeah, I have
but-
something similar to that.
But I feel like I'm real tall in them, and so whenever you step on a stone or a rock, you have a tendency to twist your ankle. Like
So with that wasn't a problem today?
a couple times I did, but I was walking, so it didn't really cause a problem.
Right. But at least you don't feel any rocks
No.
underneath your feet. That's
No,
a good thing.
Nope. And they still have plenty of water in them.
All right. So are your quads shot at this point, or knees, or
No, where
ankles, or everything feeling pretty good?
Everything's fine. Where I have problems, physical problems, is my right hip area. It's the back and the sacroiliac and the pelvic bone and the bursitis in the hip and the tendonitis in the leg and the degenerative arthritis and the spinal stenosis. So all those
The
things.
big list. By the end of the race, I kind of felt like I had been hunched over the whole time. Like I never
Yeah.
could stand straight up because I'm either hunched over a little bit when you're going uphill,
Yeah.
or even when you're fighting the technical downhills, you can't really run tall. At least I can't. So
Well-
I was like, my back just wanted to stretch out, but I couldn't
Yes.
because I'm still going up the hill.
Yeah. Not only that, but when the snow's coming down in the rain, in the wind, I was wanting to bend over so
Yes.
it wasn't hitting me in the face.
Yeah, right. The first road downhill, it was right in our eyes.
Yeah.
The sleet was right in
Yeah.
our eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
so
we had a
it's-
great day.
Yeah, it ended up
Nope.
being. You're right. I think the nasty weather actually added to it. I think you make a
yeah.
good point.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice if it would have been sunny and clear skies and all that, but it wasn't. So here we are.
Yeah.
Whenever I saw the weather prediction that we were going to have wind chills of 10 degrees,
Yeah.
I thought, whoa, 10 degrees? It was
Crazy.
chilly there in the wind.
Yeah. That first big climb,
yeah.
my face was frozen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my beard was frozen. Yeah.
I imagine.
Yeah, I had icicles.
Okay. Last question. Any races coming up that you signed up for? Or pretty sure you're going to sign up for.
Yes, next Saturday down in Athens, the Thunder Bunny 50K.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I've got the Indian Mud Run in Coshocton. I've got the Mud Ninja
I don't know those.
that I'm doing. They're obstacle course runs.
Oh, okay.
And then I do in September, I'm doing a race for the ages,
Oh, really?
and
One
then
down in Kentucky or Tennessee.
Tennessee, and then I'm doing the Barkley Fall Classic.
Oh, nice.
And then I've got two, and one is the Run Under the Stars, where they run, I think it's at a fairground.
Yeah.
It's at night. It's an 8-hour or 10-hour.
Where's that at?
I don't know if I signed up in Kentucky or Indiana,
Okay.
and it's a Durban race management
Oh, okay.
race. And then
The Land Between the Legs guy.
yes, and then I've got one called the Backyard something.
The big backyard.
Something.
That's
I-
another Lazarus Lake race.
No, this is
Oh, it's
not
not that one?
Laz's. This is not Laz's.
Oh, okay.
This is one in Kentucky, near Louisville, and it's a timed event, so it's not a distance. It's I think it's 8 hours,
Oh,
6 or 8
okay.
hours. So, I like the timed events and the ultras,
Right.
because I'm getting old. So,
I understand.
yeah, yeah, I'm a little bit older than you. But anyway, just started running 4 years ago, so
Oh, really?
I'm just,
I thought you've been running a long time.
Nope. I tell people I'm just enjoying the moment.
Wow, that is excellent.
Just glad I'm able to do it.
What, were you doing anything before then? Athletic?
No, being lazy.
Being lazy?
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
So someday I'll tell you the story.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Maybe that'll
Okay.
be for the podcast.
Okay. Very good. I'll be happy
right.
to share.
All right, congratulations.
Okay. Thanks, Tim.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right, you too. Okay, there you go. Thanks to all of them for talking to me. Excuse me, I'm doing a little adjustment right now. Okay, that's better. That's better. For those watching, if you don't know, if you're listening to the podcast, I also do this as a YouTube show. I basically just take a video of me doing the podcast, and then I put it on YouTube. So there's no difference whatsoever. Just that some people I know don't do podcasts. But anyway, I forgot to put on my headphones until just now. Did any of you notice that? I didn't have my headphones on, so I'm hoping the sound is okay for the first part there when I was talking, because I actually wasn't listening to myself through the headphones. Anyway, it's not very interesting, I know. But anyway, thank you for all listening. And you might have guessed that I know Barney from the way we were talking to each other. And he said he's in Middletown, Ohio. That's where I live. We happen to live about 3 miles apart. And we have known each other. I've only been in Ohio for a couple of years, so I don't know him super well, but I see him at races and we see him around. And he's also doing that run from the bike shop. But we independently signed up for the race. We did not know the other one was signed up, so it's kind of interesting. So I finished just a tiny bit before him, so I just waited a few minutes and then he came in. So I wanted to talk to him since he's one guy that I know. And like I said to him, I was really surprised that he's only been running like 4 years. So he looks like he's been running a long time. And But he's even a little bit older than I am, which goes to show no matter how old you are, you can get started in this thing and do a great job. So kudos to Barney. That's really cool. The ponies have been brought up a few times. So what's that all about? There are these little ponies. They are small. They come up. They're not even as tall as I am, and I'm not very tall. And here's the story on the ponies. According to the Virginia State Park staffer Amy Atwood, the carefree equines, which some speculate to be the descendants of Assateague and Chincoteague ponies, all right, were released by the U.S. Forest Service into the area surrounding Mount Rogers National Recreation Area and Grayson Highlands State Park in 1975. So these ponies were put there in 1975. It doesn't really say where they came from. It says what their descendants might be, but I don't know where they got them. What are the purpose of the ponies? To control the growth of brush along the balds, which are a man-made landscape forged by extensive logging operations in the late 19th century. The balds maintained a clear-cut appearance through the first half of the 20th century due to cattle ranching, but after the area was transformed into a state park in 1965, there were no more cows to keep the brush in check. That's where these ponies came into the picture. So it was really, really cool. We ran by the ponies. And it's funny because I think we were told to stay away from them, don't bother the ponies. But in truth, they came right up to us. They were pretty much nuzzling us. I think people must give them food or something. So I just happened to come up. Of course, I'm running by myself most of it. But as I came up to these ponies, there was some other people there, and we're all helping each other take pictures with the ponies. And you got right up next to them. You could pet them and everything. So they're very, very tame ponies. So it was pretty cool to see those. And as I mentioned to Barney, I thought we weren't. I thought maybe I missed them in all that fog. And so it was like, I think it was after, I don't know where, if it was before mile 20 or after, but it was quite a ways into the race. So we finally came across them and I saw a bunch of these ponies. And then after that, we saw them like 3 or 4 more times, pretty close to us still. I probably saw a total of a dozen or so of these little ponies. So they're pretty cool to see. As far as my race goes, I did go off course, as I mentioned. So there's one spot where I was supposed to take a left. I didn't. I'm the only one who missed it, I think. It was very obviously marked. I just wasn't paying attention. So I went straight. And as I'm going straight, I'm noticing all of a sudden there's no flagging. And I started to get a little worried. And then there were these hikers. So the funny thing is, I asked these hikers, I said, have you seen any runners? And they said, yeah, we just went by some. So I thought, okay, I guess I'm okay. So I kept going, even though I was still a little worried about the lack of flags. Well, then I saw flags, but I realized the flags I was seeing was just another part of the course. It was very obvious. It was another part of the course. So I turned around and ran back and found where I went. So I added about 1.2 miles there because I noted the distance going back was about 0.6. Here's the funny thing about that, though. When I went down that trail, the wrong spot where I was probably the only one in the race who went that way, the longhorn steer were right on the trail. I mean, I could have pet one of those. I didn't because they got gigantic long horns, which I'll put a picture of on the website. And I wasn't about to get near one of those, but I pretty much could have. There was one that just crossed the path 30 yards ahead of me, or 10 maybe. It was really close. So I got right up next to the steer. And after that, we did see some steer, but they were nowhere near that close. Maybe 40 yards away, we saw some. So I'm probably the only one who got within about 15 feet of the longhorn steer because I went the wrong way. And then after that, at the first aid station, I left the aid station, ran about a quarter mile, and realized I left my gloves at the aid station. So I was wearing gloves, and I had taken them off to get some food. So I had to run back there. So I added about another half a mile I added on to the course. So obviously my brain was not working too well. So I added a total of about 1.6, 1.7 miles to what I should have run. So, and at my pace, I ran about a 15-minute per mile pace the whole race. That's about 25 minutes extra. So I added that on to the race, which is fine. It's a training race, so I kind of look at it as a good thing. I just got an extra running. Plus, I was the only one probably who got so close to the longhorn steer. That's really kind of cool. Anyway, I stopped and took a ton of pictures, which is great. I love that. And again, look at runsmith.net for pictures. Like I said, it's very difficult. The downhills just were tough. And my left ankle is still bothering me. I just twisted it too many times. I'm just not good at technical downhills. I mean, it'll be fine. It's not injured. It's just sore. And it's 5 days later and I can still, it's getting close to going away, but it's still pretty sore. My time was 7:31:33. I seem to be running races around that time a lot lately. And that last half of 7 hours. I ended up 110 of 187 starters. 12 people didn't finish, though. Among the males, I was 79 of 102, so pretty far to the back there. In part a testament to going off course, in part because I just am not really great at that technical downhill stuff. I should mention, there was the 2 road sections. So you started out about 1.8 miles going down a road, and then right before about mile 21-ish, you ran up a road for about a mile. And it was, I should say you walked. It was steep enough to walk. So you walked up, and that's where that aid station was that I mentioned to both of the people I interviewed. You got a really good view from right there. It's a long distance view. And I looked at the pictures I took from there, and they do not do it justice. But it was a very pretty view at that point. And then you had to go down that road. I was able to run down that, and that was pretty steep. So I can run downhill if it's not technical. I just can't do it if it's technical. I'm just not a goat. It's just not my thing. I suppose everyone's got something they can't do. That's what I can't do. Everyone does it better than I do. Just not my talent. And I think in part because I do have really lousy ankles. They just don't bend. If my ankle turns, my whole body turns. Instead of other people, their ankle turns and their body stays upright. If I turn my right foot turns outward, my whole body goes outward and I lose my balance. And not only that, but it's just very painful. I just don't have ankles that want to turn. So it's the way it is. Plus, I'm a wimp. And I think that's part of it as well. Anyway, Barney mentioned a few races. He mentioned the big backyard ultra. So those of you who know about the Barkley marathons, it's been really a big deal in the last few months. It's this grueling, ridiculous race down in Tennessee. I don't want to go over it, but it's just absolutely insane. People get 60 hours to run over 100 miles, and practically no one ever finishes the race. This is in the same spot, but it's kind of the easier version. So that's in the fall, I think October. And you just do one loop, and it's well marked. The Barkley is not marked at all. You have to kind of follow maps, and it's crazy. This is marked, an easier version, but I guess it's still very difficult to do. Just an easier version, but not easy. And it sells out like instantly. So I think that's in October. And a race for the ages, he mentioned. So both of these 2 races are put on by the same guy who does Barkley. That's Lazarus Lake. His real name, I think, is Gary Cantrell. He puts on both the Barkley and these 2 races. A race for the ages is interesting. All of Gary Cantrell's races are interesting. They're always kind of different. And in a race for the ages, it's a looped course, and you get a certain time to do it. But the amount of time you get is dependent upon your age. So I think if you're 80 years old, you get 80 hours. If you're 70 years old, you get 70 hours. If you're 60 years old, you get 60 hours. And the whole point is, the people who are older have a better chance. They normally would. Usually if you're 80 years old, you're not going to win a race, right? You have no chance against a 40-year-old. Well, here you do. You get double the time of a 40-year-old. So a lot of really old people, and I say that with admiration. I don't mean to be mean when I say that, but people who are much older show up for this race. Okay, and a lot of these are kind of legends from the past. Some of these really great runners from the past will go do this race because they get so much time. They actually have a chance of winning. So whoever runs the most miles wins. So if you're 25 years old, you only get 25 hours. It's compared to a 70-year-old getting 70. But you're 25. You should be able to run a lot faster. So that's the whole point. So that's why it's called a race for the ages. I'm not sure when that one is. It might be in the summer. And finally, he mentioned Ruts, Run Under the Stars. That's put on by Durban Race Management, they put on Land Between the Lakes and a number of other races. I think the Tunnel Hill 100 mile they put on. And the Ruts, there's 3 versions of the Ruts, Race Under the Stars. And all of these are like 8 hours or something, maybe longer, maybe 12. And they're run, I think, all night long. I just briefly looked this up. And there's 3 of them. There's one like in Indiana, one in Kentucky, and one in Tennessee. And I kind of want to do the one in Tennessee. It's near Oak Ridge. And from my episode a couple episodes ago, I briefly mentioned Oak Ridge. I'd like to go down there to visit the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So I kind of have that one in mind to try sometime. So you run all night long under the stars, and it's a timed race as well. They're all on loops. I think one's on like a horse track, and I'm not sure about the other 2. But so it sounds like Barney's doing all of those. So that's a pretty ambitious race schedule right there. As well as he's doing Thunder Bunny next week, which is a hilly race here in Ohio, and a hilly trail race. Actually, he's doing that in 2 days. So he's doing 250Ks in 2 weeks. So go get him, Barney. All right, well, that is the end of the main topic. So I have my other 2 segments coming up here. The first is the general education segment. This has nothing whatsoever to do with endurance. You can skip it if you want. Fast forward. In fact, the whole rest of the episode you can skip if you like. There's no more real endurance topics in the rest of the episode. But this is my general education segment, just for fun. And in this one, I came across just yesterday a book called The 5 Chinese Brothers. And I'll post pictures of this. And I'm holding it up to the camera right now. And I bet a bunch of you remember this book. All right. I saw it in my wife's classroom. My wife teaches 2nd grade. And I happened to be at her school yesterday. And in the classroom, I saw this book. And I said, I remember that book from when I was a kid. All right, and I looked through it, and it brought back all these memories of reading this book. And I must have read this book 100 times because it was so familiar to me. And so I was kind of curious about the book. So I looked on Wikipedia, which knows everything, and got some information on the book. So here's what it says. The 5 Chinese Brothers is an American children's book written by Claire Hutchett Bishop and illustrated by Kurt Weiss. It was originally published in 1938. Hey, I'm not that old, people. Okay, but that's when it was originally published. The book is a retelling of a Chinese folk tale called 10 Brothers. And I did not research that folk tale. I should have, but I didn't. So here's the plot of the book. See if you remember this, especially you older people. I don't know if younger people are reading this book or what, but if you're over 50, maybe you remember this book. And maybe under 50. But here's the plot. Long ago in China lived a family with 5 brothers who resembled each other very closely. They each possessed a special talent. One can swallow the sea, one has an iron neck, one can stretch his legs, one can survive fire, and the last one can hold his breath forever. When one of the brothers, a somehow very successful fisherman, agrees to let a young boy accompany him on a fishing trip, trouble results. This brother holds the entire sea in his mouth so that the boy can retrieve fish and treasures. When the man can no longer hold in the sea, he frantically signals to the boy to come back, but the boy ignores him. And the man has to spit the water out, and the boy drowns. So it's not the man's fault that the boy ignored him, of course. Well, unfortunately, the brother, is accused of murder and sentenced to death. However, one by one, his 4 brothers assume his place when subjected to execution, and each uses his own superhuman ability to survive. So they try to burn one of them, but one can survive fire, and they try to chop one of their necks off, but one of them can has an iron neck. So you get the idea. At the end of the story, a judge decrees that the accused must have been innocent since he could not be executed, and the 5 brothers return home. So that's the book. Showing a little picture here. Here's the guy spitting the water back into the sea. So I remember these great illustrations. So it does say that there was some controversy as to whether or not this propagated some negative stereotypes about the Chinese, but eventually most enjoy the book in part because of the wonderful drawings. And they are. There's these great cartoon drawings. And so maybe people are still reading this because in 2007, the National Education Association named the book one of its teachers' top 100 books for children. And I believe it. I love the book. I I was so familiar to me. I maybe have not looked at this book for 45 years or something, and it was still very familiar to me. So I must have read it many, many times. So thought I'd bring that up in case that jars something in your memory from that book. But there you go. I'll post some pictures from the book itself, or you can just look it up. The Five Chinese Brothers. I'm sure it might be, the whole book might be online at this point. So our last segment is the Not This Day in History segment. So this segment talks about something from the past, but I'm too lazy to line it up to when it is, so it's just some date in the past. So this was something from June 6th, 1844. Anybody know what happened June 6th of 1844? That is a long time ago, folks. That is when the YMCA first opened, or it was when it was founded. It was founded June 6, 1844 by George Williams in London, and the YMCA aimed to put Christian principles into practice by developing a healthy body, mind, and spirit. These three angles are reflected by the different sides of the red triangle, which is a part of all YMCA logos: body, mind, and spirit. So some of this is really interesting, and again, I got this all off Wikipedia. From its inception, it grew rapidly and ultimately became a worldwide movement founded on the principles of muscular Christianity. I never heard of muscular Christianity. Maybe a lot of you know this. So then I went over to read about muscular Christianity. Muscular Christianity was a philosophical movement that originated in England in the mid-19th century, characterized by a belief in patriotic duty, manliness, the moral and physical beauty of athleticism, teamwork, discipline, self-sacrifice, and the expulsion of all that is effeminate, un-English, and excessively intellectual. So it kind of got off to a really good start there, didn't it? And then, I guess depending upon your political views, it kind of goes downhill, or maybe not, but the expulsion of all that is effeminate, un-English, and excessively intellectual. So they didn't like that part, but they liked all this other stuff. So kind of a macho thing is what it was about, I guess. And patriotic duty and Christianity as well. The movement came into vogue during the Victorian era as a method of building character in students at English public schools. American President Theodore Roosevelt was raised in a household that practiced muscular Christianity. Roosevelt and other advocates promoted physical strength and health, as well as an active pursuit of Christian ideals in personal life and politics. So for those of you outside of America, Teddy Roosevelt was very well known for being this macho, very good, in good shape, very rugged president we had around 1900. He was a rough rider who rode into war in Mexico and all this stuff. It's kind of a tough guy. It doesn't mean his politics are really exactly in that direction, but that was his image. Muscular Christianity has continued itself through organizations that combine physical and Christian spiritual development. It is influential within both Catholicism and Protestantism. And I think I just got it wrong where the Rough Riders are not in Mexico. Were they in like the Philippines or something? I'm embarrassed. See, I'm an idiot. So I forget where the Rough Riders went into. Maybe it was the Philippines or something like that. Or Central America. I don't know. You'll have to correct me. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, a little more on muscular Christianity. It preached the muscular Christianity preached the spiritual value of sports, especially team sports. In the United States, it appeared first in private schools and then in the YMCA and in the preaching of evangelists such as Dwight Moody. The addition of athletics to the YMCA led to, among other things, the invention of basketball and volleyball. Yes, they were invented at the YMCA or because of someone associated with the YMCA. In 2012, maybe that's when this was most recently updated, athletes such as Tim Tebow, Manny Pacquiao, is that how you say it, the boxer guy? Josh Hamilton, I have never heard of Josh Hamilton, and Jeremy Lin have also exemplified muscular Christianity through sharing their faith with their fans. So there's a little bit on muscular Christianity. Back to the YMCA. So the beginnings of the YMCA with regard to the history and purpose of the founding, this organization and its female counterpart, the YWCA, Young Women's Christian Association, were established to provide low-cost housing in a safe Christian environment for rural young men and women journeying to the cities. It was associated with industrialization and the movement of young people to cities to work. The YMCA combined preaching in the streets and the distribution of religious tracts with a social ministry. Philanthropists saw them as places for wholesome recreation that would preserve youth from the temptations of alcohol, gambling, prostitution, and that would promote good citizenship. The first YMCA in North America opened in Montreal on December 9th, 1851. 20 days later, December 29th, 1851, the first one in the United States opened in Boston. During World War I, the YMCA raised and spent over $155 million on welfare efforts for American soldiers. It deployed over 25,000 staff in military units and bases from Siberia. Obviously, this was the American YMCA. It deployed over 25,000 staff and in military units and bases from Siberia to Egypt to France. They took over the military's morale and comfort operations worldwide. Irving Berlin, the famous composer, wrote Yip Yip Yap Hank, a review that included a song entitled I Can Always Find a Little Sunshine in the YMCA. The YMCA was also very active in World War II as well. The YMCA was very influential during the 1870s and 1930s, during which times they most successfully promoted evangelical Christianity in weekday and Sunday services while promoting good sportsmanship in athletic contests in gyms. Later in this period, and continuing on through the 20th century, the YMCA had become interdenominational and more concerned with promoting morality and good citizenship than a distinctive interpretation of Christianity. Today, the YMCA is more focused on inspiring youths and their families to exercise to be healthy. Somewhat interestingly, to me, the YMCA was associated with homosexual subculture through the middle part of the 20th century, with the athletic facilities providing cover for closeted individuals. That's kind of surprising, I guess, given kind of the environment we're in today. Up until the 1970s, here's something I didn't know. Up until the 1970s, when women first started coming to the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Facilities, everything now is a YMCA, so the women couldn't go there till the 70s, I guess. Until then, wearing clothing of any type in the YMCA pools was forbidden. So the men were swimming around naked in the pool. So one reason cited was that the cotton or even older wool swimsuits would clog filtration systems. So the filtration systems weren't as good then as today, and they didn't use as much chlorine. Thankfully, I missed this because I started going to the Y in the 70s, the later 70s, so I'm glad I did not have to swim with a bunch of naked people. That's pretty disgusting. On July 11th, 2010, just about 7 years ago, the YMCA of the USA rebranded its name to the popular nickname The Y and revised the iconic red and black logo to create 5 colored versions. You know, that makes sense to me. That must have been just a marketing move because I've always called it the Y. Everyone I know calls it the Y. No one ever says the YMCA. So even way back in the 70s, I said, hey, I'm going to the Y. So I guess they finally just decided to adopt that for marketing reasons. So that's it about the YMCA. I thought it was interesting. And the reason I brought that up is I think of how many people must have gotten their beginnings at the Y. All right. How many Olympians, how many national champions of one sort or another began at the Y. And it's also one of the few places you can often count on there being a swimming pool. So how many triathletes got their start at the Y, or at least at some point were swimming at the Y. So, you know, kind of really, in a way, has a big role, I would think, in a lot of the backgrounds of endurance athletes. I started going there, like I said, in the mid to late 70s, the YMCA of Davenport, Iowa, and that building is still there. In fact, every year on Thanksgiving morning, we do a turkey trot that the Y, their sponsor. So every Thanksgiving Davenport, Iowa. I'm at the Y to do the turkey trot so that I can earn my turkey afterwards. So there you go. The YMCA, 1844. I did not know it was that old. All right, so that is pretty much it for this episode. In fact, that is it for this episode. So we'll finish with that. Again, I still haven't gotten any comments. Well, I've only got like 10 people listening, so I'm not too surprised. But like I said, if you have any comments whatsoever, send in an MP3 file. Google how to do it. Speak into it. Email it to me at kemsmith1@gmail.com. If you didn't get that, go to runsmith.net and you'll find my email. And like I said, you can talk about anything you want, something I've talked about, races you're doing, races you have done, people, anything, topics, suggest topics, correct me. Tell me what war Teddy Roosevelt was in because I'm embarrassed that I can't think of it. Whatever you like. So send me an MP3 file, keep it to, about 5 minutes or so, and I will play it, all right? So again, you can find more about me at my website at runsmith.net. Email, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and my coaching services. I'm happy to take on some more clients. And go run Grayson Highlands. It's really an interesting race, a fun race, and all those other races I mentioned. Come to West Virginia and Pennsylvania, Virginia, here in Ohio. There's just lots of good races in this area. So come race around here. So I'll play a little bit more of the YMCA song. Hopefully I won't get dinged by the Village people or YouTube. I'm nervous that they're going to get mad at me for playing their song, but I'll play a little bit more. This is Topics in Endurance Sports, signing out. Have a great workout.